Let me just make this very clear off the bat. This is not going to be like my normal summary and review videos that I regularly do. Volume 20 of Grimgar Fantasy Nash is a new volume that just came out recently. And I usually do my summary videos as like rereads, essentially. So the videos that you've been seeing when I do my Grimgar reviews, those are me rereading the book for like the 4th time. And so essentially I'm summarizing everything and getting a lot more detail on it. And I don't have that much time to be able to do that kind of thing for volume 20 and a good time because the book just came out. I finished like reading it and everything, and I need to get a review on it as soon as possible because that's just kind of how the algorithm works. The best time for me to get the review out is right around the same time the book review, right around the same time the book actually releases. So I need to get this out as soon as possible. I finished it yesterday night on Thursday, the 26th, and I could not sleep most of that night. And honestly, I think that this is one of the most divisive books that the writer has done. And I think that the ending of this book specifically is going to divide the fan base a lot more than the end of volume 14 ever did. But also, I should probably organize my thoughts a little better. Sorry, this is going to be just a random rant or me yapping about the book for a little bit. I won't talk about spoilers yet, but when I do start talking about spoilers, it's going to be around halfway through the video, and I'll put up a spoiler warning for that. Right off the bat, if you guys want to know about my thoughts when it comes to like, should you guys read this book? I think you should. If you're a Grimgar reader and you're at the point where you're like, hey, I already got through like 20 something books, but yeah, if you've gone through all of that, you probably should read this book. Because it is sort of a soft close. It's sort of a soft ending to, like, the main story. What it feels like. It's weird. And I've talked about this in past videos, and a lot of people didn't really, like, agree with me. That the writer has stated that he wanted to end the story a lot earlier. And at the end of the after part of this book, he does also state that he was planning on it, but he decided to keep going a little longer. This is probably going to have ramifications in the future. I'll talk about those in the spoiler section. But I don't agree with everything he's choosing to do, but I do respect the fact that this man has no shits to give and he is willing to change up everything whenever he feels like it. And say what you want about writing, but there's not enough writers that are willing to do what they want when they want to, and they're usually very scared to offend their fan base, and I think that is something that I have to respect to a degree. I've had problems with the writer in the past. I think this book has a lot of the problems I've mentioned in the past, like exposition dumps. But I think that if you are someone who has not been pushed away from Grimgar from all the other books where that man just absolutely rips your heart out, this is not going to be that different for you. You're going to be able to get through this just fine, and we can all just suffer together. And overall, I do recommend this book for everybody who's enjoyed the book series up until this point. And I feel like there's something I should probably say also, that it's very clear to me as a reader of Grimgar and a reader of other fantasy stories that Grimgar is, to a degree, it's a grimdark story. It just walks a really good line between being edgy and just being dark. And I like how it walks that line without being too edgy, but it still manages to give you the gut punches. There's a bunch of other like isekai or fantasy stories that come out of Japan, like say Redo of Healer. It's grimdark, but it's edgy grimdark, where it's just trying too hard to do what it's trying to do. But Grimgar doesn't feel that way, but it does have edgy moments, like Jin Magus' backstory. I always talk about how incredibly edgy that shit feels. It feels like a 16-year-old wrote that backstory. But I also have to say, as a positive, the writer does a really good job of balancing the side characters in this book, as in he keeps the annoying ones quieter than usual, and he lets the other ones that are like more interesting talk a little bit more. Renji has good moments in this book. And the Tokis, the ones that I find annoying, don't really talk as much, but they still find a way to be useful in the book. That being said, the pacing in this book, depending on how you feel about Grimgar's pacing already, is either a little too slow or a little too fast. And quite frankly, the writer should have utilized way more POV switching, because sticking to just how to hero is probably not the best idea for this book specifically. I'll talk more about that in the spoiler section of this video. But needless to say, out of all the books that I've read in Grimgar, I do think this book needed POV switching the absolute most, just to keep the pacing of the book at a good level, which moments in this book just don't have very good pacing, in my opinion. It gets kind of messy or not messy. It just gets too slow and like same-ish. Because Haru for a while in this book does the same stuff over and over again. And it's not very interesting, in my opinion, if I'm being honest. And this is coming from the guy who liked it when the characters were in the middle of shopping and taking care of their equipment and going for food. So if I find it boring, that's probably a bad sign. So like I mentioned before, there is a problem with exposition dumps in this book more than actually other books. The writer has a problem in this book when it comes to just telling you the information and not just showing you the information. And it gets genuinely annoying. It's because the writer's trying to put as much information into a short amount of space as possible. And I'll talk more about that again in the spoiler section. But this writer should not be doing light novels. He should just be doing full-on books. However, when things are happening, it is really, really fun. The writer does a really good job of keeping these characters very consistent. And they're not immortal. They're not unkillable. They're not, like, superhuman. Well, some of them can come off that way. But, like, characters like Haru and Ranta, while they are impressive and have their moments, are not, like, the most craziest characters. Haru's a really good moment in this book near the end. It's really, really cool. And I've talked about it in shorts. I genuinely love that moment for him. And Ranta has great time too, honestly. Like, genuinely, I think they both have really good moments in this book. I really wish the writer would give Ranta his own POV in this book because it was incredibly needed, especially about the halfway point. So that's the spoiler-free section of this. The rest of this is going to be either heavy spoilers or light spoilers, and I'm just going to dive right into it. The book is primarily told through a flashback perspective. It is Haru talking to the audience or to somebody. We find out who that is at the end of Volume 20, a story about his time through Volume 20. I should say we probably find out who that is by the end of Volume 20, which is Minato. Which, not Minato, but a new Minato. I'll explain later. But essentially, it is... I ultimately think that the flashback perspective is kind of a hindrance to this book overall. I did like it at first, and I even mentioned it in my community post on YouTube. But after going through it and getting everything all done, I think it was more of a hindrance because of the way that the story is being told, it forces the writer to only stick to Harihiro as a POV character up until the very last chapter, which switches to Yume's granddaughter. I say this because a very large portion of this book is just Haru just living his life in Sunbreak town or village, the place that the volunteer soldiers like set up, their little village he got going on. He spends a lot of time there. And a lot of it is just him giving his opinion and thoughts and how miserable he feels and how depressed he feels the entire time. And you guys know my opinion on Haru's mental health. In my past videos, I've talked about it multiple times. I like when stories talk about mental health, and I love how stories will go into that stuff. But you can't have just that for such a long period of time because it's badly paced out at that point, and you're going to drain your audience of goodwill. We're just gonna get tired and not want to read a lot of this stuff. And that happened pretty much all the way in volume like 12, I think, with the whole thing with Mary and everything. And that was a bit of an emotional drag for a lot of people. And in this, it kind of gets to that point too, because Haru eventually goes with Yumi, Ranta, and all the volunteer soldiers into this town area that they make called Sunbreak Town. And Haru basically becomes a farmer slash handy worker. I don't know, because they don't ever go into too much detail about what work he's doing. He's like building walls, building up buildings and houses and stuff, and possibly farming. But like they don't go into that much detail, which I kind of found weird, because like if we're gonna talk about him doing this stuff, you probably should give more detail of that. And they never switch his POV at that point. They should, because it gets really repetitive at that point. And I do think that switching to Ranta's perspective or Yumi's perspective in that town, because Ranta goes out with Renji and other volunteer soldiers to go hunt and train, and seeing other volunteer soldiers' perspective of that town would have been very nice to see, and probably would have been a lot nicer as a reading experience, and would have made the pacing better. Another problem that I've had that I've mentioned from like, I think since volume 12 or volume 11 and onward, is the writer is putting too much into these books sometimes, and it feels like he's trying to write a bigger book than he actually is capable of doing. And I do think that he struggles with the light novel format, which is a certain amount of pages for each book. And I do think that he should just go full book, like give us more than just 300 or something pages of a book. Give us a fat book. Just go all in. Because then you can have Haru's whole, like, emotional, sad section. But then you can actually switch to, like, Ranta and all the other characters and see how they're doing. Switch back to Haru, and you have more time, more space. And I think I've seen people, like, in my my community section talk about how the book feels rushed. And I have to agree to a degree. Because there's sections where genuinely there's just massive time skips that are not specified. Except for when Yumi got pregnant, and then it's like obviously like a 9-month time skip at that point. But it's like we don't exactly know how long Haru was spending in this village, but it's somewhere around a couple years. I'm pretty sure that the one of the last volumes talk about how it's been like maybe 2.5 years. So I think from volume 19 to 20, about halfway through 20, it's about 2.5 years ish, possibly. And they don't give that much detail about it. But it feels longer in some parts. And it's just, I feel like the writer could have done a lot better about the pacing. If you just switched the POV to other characters, it would have been a lot better. It would have flowed a lot better, essentially. But I do like that they added a bunch of new species and monsters and like races because of the Wonder Hole. So now monsters are coming out of the Wonder Hole into Grimgar, which is cool. They also added a bunch of random lore that I don't believe. Let me know in the comments. I could be wrong. I've read this book series like 4 times now. I'm on my 4th reread. And I don't think they've ever mentioned ancestors of elves, dwarves, and goblins. The ancient race is called the Forerunners, which I immediately went and said Halo in my brain, but whatever. I don't believe that Forerunners have ever been mentioned. I think they might have been implied, possibly, but I'm not sure. And again, let me know in the comments. I could just be blatantly wrong about this. But I think this is the first time the series have ever mentioned Forerunners. It also lets us know that goblins, dwarves, and elves are all descended from one race. And there's certain things in here that also don't make much sense, like the dark bug things that are going around, like taking relics, are because relics are from other worlds and universes, and they're trying to throw things that are not from that universe out of that world, which doesn't make much sense because humans are also not from Grimgar, and other races like orcs are not from Grimgar, and they're trying to get rid of the No Life King, which is something that is not from Grimgar. It's implied they're from another world. Again, they never really go into that much specifics. They go after the giants, which is hilarious because the giants are just not from Grimgar. I'm pretty sure the giants have implied to be coming from the Dust Realm. And it's weird because like, how are the giants that much different from humans in this situation? Because they are from a different world too. But they never go into that much detail. They just say that they don't really know. Which I was like, okay, don't even. I'm guessing there's gotta be a reason at some point. But I don't see them going back to it. I could be wrong. We'll see. But it is one of those weird things. I think they're probably doing some setup for volume 21 or 22. But we'll see. There's also like a whole bunch of character moments like with Ranta and Yume, and I think they did I've given the writer a lot of shit for like the romance between Ranta and Yume and how I don't particularly like it very much. I will say that he did a pretty good job with Ranta and Yume in this book. Ranta's always like surprisingly like the emotional crutch that Haru needs, and he's always there talking with him. He's trying to always get Haru out of his funks, and he's actually stops insulting Haru by making fun of his name at least. A good portion early into the book where he just starts calling him Hadahiro the whole time. And that's like him just basically starting to respect Haru now because he just doesn't see him as like that much of a bad person. They're weird still. I just kind of, where Ranta's like, hey, you're Hadahiro now. I'm not going to call you Pure Pekko anymore. He just starts calling him Hadahiro. I guess because Ranta just finally just hit that point where he's like, all right, I'm done with this bullshit. I'm just going to stop being a dick. Even though he does call him out on, like, bad behavior later on, too. But it's like, it's warranted by that point because Haru is just kind of, like, zoning out a lot of the time because he's so depressed. Like, I kind of get it by that point. And in critical situations where he shouldn't be zoning out. So, like, I get Ranta's anger for that by that point. Also, I guess I'll talk about some of the side characters. They did the Tokis pretty well in this book. As in, they use them sparingly. Since Tokimin is dead now, which, by the way, that happens at the very beginning of the story where they find Tokimin and Brittany's skeletons, the Tokis are kind of changed. They're a little more serious now, and I appreciate that, honestly, because they're less annoying, and they do a really good job with them. I got fucked up when Tada crushes some of their heads when I'll talk about that near the end because I gotta talk about the ending, dude. Holy shit. I like how so much just shows up, by the way. I don't know if you guys, if for those of you who've read the book, so much just shows up. Somo and Akira just show the fuck up, and I thought that was really funny. They're like, yeah, they've just been lost in the fucking Wonder Hole the whole fucking time. Which I think that's actually kind of hilarious for the story because we've been asking for a while where the fuck have they been, and the characters have also been asking the same thing. Haru and Yumi and Ranta's first instinct is to go try to find them in the Wonder Hole, and that's what starts off the story where they're trying to like get through the Wonder Hole. They didn't get that far until they found Renji and everyone else fighting, and then they eventually like let them know like, yeah, we found him already. We found Akira and Soma. We're making a little village. Okay. I thought that was kind of funny because they're trying really hard to like be heroes and go find these guys and like get them to help with everything. They've already been found. They've already been found. They've already established a village. I think that was funny. It's stupid, but also like it's very Grimgar of like the main characters trying to be like trying to do something and then find out it's already been done. I think I feel like some people are gonna be mad by that. I think it's funny as fuck, honestly. But now I'll talk about the ending and then I'll just call it a day with the video. But like, holy shit, the ending. Oh my god, the ending of this book. This is the reason I couldn't sleep for like most of my night. To summarize things very quickly, marrying the No-Life King, blow open a fucking mountain to get rid of the dark bug things that have been taking over the place. Like the Keishus, I keep forgetting their name. And it gets rid of them, but it also awakens the gods of light and dark, which I don't know if the No-Life King knew about this, because you don't ever go back, you never figure out if the No-Life King like planned this or knew about this at all. I don't think they did. And the gods showed up, and all of the followers of Lumiaris, which includes all the paladins, which includes Akira, and all the priests, all get taken over by the god of light. And they all start killing each other. They all start killing anyone who's not associated with the god of light. They all start attacking them. This means Tada takes his hammer, smashes Kikawa's head, and Kikawa's just dead now. And then you see Chibi attack Renji. I have no idea if Renji's alive. Renji took multiple shots to the head from the priest's club. He might be like seriously injured. We know that Renji's mage Adachi got in between him and like Chibi and got clubbed in the face and got knocked down immediately. Adachi might be dead. We don't know. We know that, however, Ranta felt that the Dark God Skullhell was coming back from underground, and Haru and Ranta were moving away from the whole giant fight. And Ranta asked Haru to kill him because he's about to get taken over by Skullhell. Haru has to slit his throat and stab him multiple times. So a lot of people are freaking out because Ranta's dead. I don't think he's actually dead, for the record. The way that the Dark God's powers work is that his followers can't die. So Ranta's probably alive, to be fair. Like, I know a lot of people are freaking out about that. I don't think he's actually dead. I'm pretty sure that Haru didn't kill him fast enough, and he just slit his throat and stabbed him multiple times, and then the Dark God came back like, oh, brought him back to life. Quite frankly, it wouldn't surprise me if Ranta's like some sort of pseudo-undead. Speaking of pseudo-undeads, after that, Haru meets with fucking, what's his name? Fuck. Aaron Leslie, after Shihiro blows up part of the tower, flies away, and then Aaron Leslie's like, oh, hey, Haru, nice body you got there, and jumps into Haru's body. And now Haru is a pseudo-undead himself, and he can't age. Apparently, as far as I can tell, he can't age. Because he didn't die or anything. I've already seen pictures of him in the future books. He looks the same. He just much sadder. And he just stays Haru in the tower studying about the fucking the magic tower, which we find out it's called the Ark. And he stays there for about 50 years and summons a kid. Well, he doesn't summon it. A kid shows up there named Monoto, who's like 13 or 14 or something. And then Haru takes him and leaves the tower. And then it switches the POV from that to Yumi's granddaughters. And they have their whole thing where they're clearly heading from the Red Continent back to fucking Grimgar. And that's basically the end of the book. Which, again, I'm skipping over a lot of shit because I'm just trying to talk about that. Because, like, the ending is so jarring. Comes out of fucking no... It's so fast. It's so fast. First of all, the fact that all this happens and Haru was able to run back to the graveyard where Minato and Moguzo supposedly were is crazy. Like they were fucking off somewhere far away, and Haru ran all the way back to this. I'm pretty sure they were in the Quick Wind Plain. In the past, the Quick Wind Plain, running back from the Quick Wind Plain like takes, I think, weeks, doesn't it? Like a week or so. Like the distance from the Quick Wind Plain to Alterna has always been kind of vague, but it has consistently taken a couple days to get from one to the other. And now Haru's able to run through it like in a night, which is crazy. But yeah, there's just a whole lot of shit that happens at the end of the book. And again, I gotta when I make my full summary video, which is gonna come out months later, I'll go more into details about this. But like, there's just so much that happens in this book near the end. The ending does genuinely feel sped up to an insane degree that it's just too fucking fast. And I think that criticism is valid as fuck, because it feels like it goes from 1 to 100 in less than a chapter. But like, I guess the next book is gonna deal with like the Light God and Dark God's armies fighting each other while Haru and everyone else is like dealing with it. And I don't know. Also, for the record, this ending fucked me up so badly. Like I already said, I couldn't sleep through most of the night because I was busy thinking about what could happen. I had to spoil myself, so I know what things are happening in the future a little bit. I went to go on Reddit and looked up some of the spoilers from book 21 and 22 because I needed that validation to know that Haru is still the protagonist, because they seem to kind of be setting up Minato to be the new main character. That's not seemingly what it kind of feels like a little bit. I know people are freaking about it. I guess extra spoiler warning for what happens in the future. I'm not going to go into too much detail for the record. Volume 22 has a huge chunk of it dedicated to the new character, the new character Minato, and you get to take his POV. Just because a writer makes a character the main POV for a longer part of a book does not mean he's the main character. Everything that I've seen from the writers talking about Grimgar has Haru still being the main character. I think that he's just giving another character screen time, and I've been asking this for a while. I've been asking for more POV switches. I've been asking for, so I can't be mad. I can't be mad. Anybody else who doesn't want to keep reading it, I fully understand that. But I think that giving 22 a chance is fine, because I know that Haru's mostly the main POV from 21. My thing is, we have to wait until 23 to really know if this is a good idea or not. We'll see. You guys know, a lot of you who've been here for a while know my opinions about Grimgar. I'm very critical about the story, and I give the writer a lot of shit for certain things. I am willing to let this one go for right now, but we'll see what happens, because there are a lot of weird fumbles in this book, and I'm hoping that the writers also seems to be having some kind of existential crisis. Also, that's also been talked about. Check it out on Reddit. I don't want to make a video about someone who I don't know personally, but that seems to be kind of what also might be happening. But we'll see. If you guys want me to talk more about Grimgar in this fashion, let me know. I usually don't do reviews this way. I usually go into like much longer details. And by the way, if anyone wants to know a score that I would give this book, B+, maybe an A. But like, I can't be sure yet. I need to reread that thing at some point. By the way, I'm going through volume 17 right now. I don't know. I know by this point I already finished volume 17. I'm editing volume 17, and that should be out after this video at some point. But thank you all for hanging out with me. Thank you all for listening to my rants, or just yapping, I guess. I'm not really ranting about it. I'm just talking, giving my opinions on it, because fuck, this book fucked me up. And I hope you guys come back for the next video. And if you enjoyed this book, let me know in the comments. If you dropped Grimgar after this book, let me know in the comments. I want to be able to talk to you guys about this stuff, because I do think that if people feel like they need to drop it after this, I don't want to argue with them, because it's fair. I think it's fair at this point, because it is a very jarring, painful kind of book that will fuck you up. And I think if people can't deal with that, they have every right to walk away from it. I don't think that it is one of those like be tough kind of thing. I think it is like, if it's not your taste, it's not your taste. It is very grim dark. For those who know what that is, it's everything that could go bad does go bad kind of story, and Grimgar does do that a lot. So Anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to my rant. I hope you guys have a great day or night. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.